watching Bob Newhart's show on television, and I remember falling asleep on the couch, and at one point I start to wake up and I feel someone stroking my back, and I didn't really look to see who it was, but I just fell right back asleep. And then when I woke up the next morning, I was actually in my niece's bed, and I don't remember how I got there, but the first thought in my head when I woke up was, oh, my baby, oh, my God, something's wrong with my baby. I was pregnant. Mom and Dad knew about it. Everybody knew about it. The wedding has moved up. But I woke up, and I just knew there was something wrong with my baby. My girlfriend, the same gal who had been with me a few months before out in the boonies that night when we saw that light come to the ground, had come over to my sister's house, and I was going to go with her. She was going to Planned Parenthood to get her birth control pill. And I told her, I think there's something wrong. And she said, well, come with me to Planned Parenthood. You can get a pregnancy test there. It doesn't cost anything. So I went with her. They gave me a pregnancy test, and I'm sitting there waiting, just a urine test. The lady called me back in, and she said, your test was negative. Well, as soon as I heard the word, your test is negative, I was in shock. Mm-hmm. And I just lost it. Mm-hmm. I was just crying because at this point, I'd gotten over the shock of finding I was pregnant. That was suddenly gone. So I got my mom to take me back to the doctor. I told her I thought something was wrong. So she went back to the doctor with me because I was still 17, living at my parents' house. I hadn't moved out yet. They gave me another pregnancy test and an exam, and I indeed was not pregnant. And I remember my mom and I sitting in the doctor's office, and I remember the doctor saying, well, you know, these things happen, and we don't really know why or what happens, but you're young. You'll have other children. And he goes, everything is perfectly normal. And my mom said, she doesn't even need a DNC, and he said, no. And I was crying. And he said, you know, if I were you, I would just forget this ever happened.
Debbie, the very fact that he did not feel that you needed a DNC would imply that there was such a thorough removal of the developing fetus in your uterus that there was nothing left to take out.
Yeah, and I remember my mom kind of looking at him weird because I'd been pregnant for, a while. I just remember my mom, she's like, are you sure? And he's like, yes, I am sure. I had this weird pregnancy and I lost this baby somehow. I don't know what happened. But it's always in your heart and you always carry it with you. I couldn't believe it when I found out that there were a lot of other women who had missing pregnancy stuff. I was just flabbergasted and freaked me out. One time my house was circled by a black helicopter like 40 times, and every time it went by one side of my house, it would like flash a strobe light at me. And my neighbors called me to see if we were okay, and one of them was going to call the police because they were so freaked out by it. And I have no idea what that was about. Why would you do something like that to somebody?
Well, I think it's because our government has had monitors of certain Hertz frequencies associated with certain alien craft and types for a very long time. And when they pick up certain Hertz frequencies, they know that the alien presence is interacting. And I think our government went through a period of time in the 80s where they were trying to actively interfere with abductions. And I don't have the sense that that's going on today. Do you?
No, I don't. I haven't felt anything weird like that for a while.
In 1983, a bunch of us who were investigating, already we had been exposed by then, going into the 80s, of this whole concept of disappearing pregnancies, and the disappearing pregnancies were often associated with vivid dreams in which the person would be introduced either to a young child that you understood to be the disappearing pregnancy. Did you go through anything like that at that time in 1983, where you were finally introduced to the child that emerged from that disappearing pregnancy?
I don't know if it was in 1983, but I know that it was in that time frame where I remembered what I called this vivid dream, where I had been taken to a place with these same guys that I had seen in 78 in my bedroom when I first got married, the small gray with the big dark eyes. I was on a table, sitting up, and they were trying to communicate something to me, not verbally, and I remember another one of them walk into the room with this little child in this dream. She was actually trying to hide from me. She looked human, mostly. Some was a little off about her. She was frail, and her hair was thin and wispy and really pale, blonde, whitish almost. Her eyes were bigger than normal human eyes, but they had a pupil, and it just something wasn't quite right about her. But she was clearly afraid of me and tried to hide behind them, peeking at me, peering around at me. And then I had this, epiphany, and when I was looking at her, I'm like, I see me. That's my child. Then I really felt sad, and I was really upset. And this one particular being, I felt as if I recognized him or had known him prior to this meeting. I got the distinct impression that he was trying to feel my emotions and that he was confused as to why I was feeling so upset and angry and everything all at once. And I almost felt like it was coming from him in some way. He was trying to understand. And I got a thought came to my mind in this dream that he was like, well, I don't understand why you feel sad. This is a good thing. This is a good thing. We should be happy about this.
Debbie, what did he look like?
He looked like them, the big dark eyes and the kind of pale grayish skin, no hair, no ears, just a tiny bit of a mouth, probably about 4.5 feet tall, thin, arms were long, and I remember they always had dark suits on, like from the neck all the way to the feet. It was all like one piece except for the hands.
Like a leotard?
Yeah, like a dancer leotard, very close-fitting.
Did he stand out as different from the smaller ones?
He stood out because he felt familiar. The smaller ones that weren't as interactive with me were just kind of like there. He interacted with me, and he felt almost familiar to me. The others, I didn't feel any kind of essence from like I did him.
Did you get telepathic images from him into your mind that was tying this young girl who was afraid of you to your disappearing pregnancy? Telepathic communication that this was a hybrid made of you and them.
Yeah, it was like this child was a part of me, and it was a part of him. It was a good thing. And I wanted to take her with me, and he said, no, you can't, because she wouldn't survive with you. She has needs that you can't provide her for. She has to stay here.
Did he use that term, hybrid? This is a hybrid. This is part you and part us, and suggest to you, even with images, why they were doing this, why they were making hybrids?
I was to feel that this was a good thing for both of our people, our races or species.
We're now talking in 2017, and the whole issue of hybrids. There are books coming out about hybrids in the world. Do you have from your life an insight from any of the beings you interacted with about why it is so important that they make hybrids that is part them genetically and part us humans?
Recently, I've begun to realize some of the things that I was shown in the drawings and things I did that first year after the 83 incident was an attempt to communicate with me on a level that didn't need words but was more picture-like. Mm-hmm. And I'm beginning to understand some of that. These new children, who aren't really children anymore, they're around, are wired differently in their brains that will give them capability to receive communications on a level and from different dimensions or levels that I'm not capable of, but with these new kids can do this, and it will help everybody to be able to communicate. There are some people on this planet that are like tube-type radios. There are some people on this planet that are like transistor radios. There are some people on this planet that are like Dolby Digital 3D surround sound radios or receivers. They're all functional, but one is always sharper and clearer than the other. And I think that these new kids, these hybrids, they're rewired so that they're the Dolby Digital surround sound receivers that will be able to receive contact. and communication here in the near future.
Some people think it is a silent invasion through genetic evolution. What do you think about the possibility of a silent invasion in which the hybrids will replace Homo sapiens sapien?
Well, I think we're hybrids. You and I and everybody here now, we're already hybrids from the last bunch of Homo sapiens. I think that it's intentional. I think we've been diddled with since the day we stood upright. And I think it's been a slow and intentional upgrade through maybe some kind of giant science project. When I had communication with that one particular one, I got the feeling that it was more for concern for us to make sure that Homo sapiens continue on in some capacity. I didn't think it was like a nefarious or terrible thing where we're going to take over the world and turn us all into slaves. I don't feel that. I feel like this was done to help raise us up so that we would be better able to understand our place in this universe and in other universes.